This is Coop's Comedy Corner. Buckle up because it's funny as Coop's Comedy Corner.
Hey, people, welcome to Coop's Comedy Corner. You know, we have a great show tonight, and I got to give the shout out to my sponsors, Laurel Lanes. They're over there in Route 73 in Maple Shade. It's the ultimate entertainment center. They have 60 lanes of bowling. They have a state-of-the-art arcade games. They have a private luxury suite. They have something for everyone. And it's great for corporate events, birthday parties, or just a night out on the town. And they have a great ice cream parlor called Lickety Splits. They have these special creations that are amazing, and some have alcohol in them. I've actually had the butter pecan bourbon, which is awesome. And finally, at the bar I love, Splits Bar and Grill. I do my Cocktails with Cooper networking event there. If you want to do a networking event, reach out to them. Because your first event, they'll give 10% back to your charity of choice. And Splits is great. I go to watch Phillies games during the season. I go to watch Eagles games. They have a happy hour Monday through Friday from 4 to 7. And during the month, they have beer pong, they have trivia, they have karaoke. It's a great place. So please, people, check out Laurel Lanes. They're right there on Route 73 in Maple Shade, New Jersey. Go to laurelLanesNewJersey.com. Anyway, we have a great show today. You know, I was looking at my Cooper Talk, and you know, Cooper Talk, I have 1,026 episodes up, and my guest was episode number 55. He was 55, and he was number 473. Yeah, it's Brian Scolaro. What's up, man?
Hi. How are you, man? It's good to see you again.
Dude, you know, I was looking back. You were episode 55. It was May 10th of 2012, and I remember.
I remember.
Yeah,
I remember something. Yeah, I remember something very specifically about that. I was there after Ed Asner, and we came up with a joke about how I could sense Ed Asner's thoughts through the farts in the chair. Like we did like a like you know, like in the Dead Zone, Christopher Walken would shake somebody's hand and then he'd get a memory. So I'd get it was like fart memory from Ed Asner's farts. Remember that? You probably don't.
Yeah, it was funny that no, because you done my show twice. But you know, I want to start off with. I follow you on Instagram, and you post some of the fucking weirdest shit. Where do you find it? Like, you post these Mexican movie clips, or like there's something like a slug or something, someone pops out. It's like, where do you find these things? Because they're hysterical. I mean, do you just search the internet, or what's going on?
They find me. I don't know. They find me. Like, I just I just started posting. I was like, well, fuck this. I'm posting content for years, and nobody cared. So I was like, well, I'll post my content and I'll post the crazy videos that I find. And some of them are great. My favorite one was Italian Spider-Man. I guess there was a comedy called Italian Spider-Man, and it's great. He just walks, like, girls are walking down the street, and like, hey, nice balones, and they harass the girl. And then Spider-Man shows up and goes, respect Madonna, and he punches them. And she goes, thank you, Spider-Man, gracias. And he punches her, and he goes, get me a macchiato. Like, and I thought it was so crazy. So I posted those on Facebook. Somebody reported it and said I was inciting bullying, even though it's a clip from a movie. So I'm like, they're like, one more of those and we take down your Facebook page. I'm like, Jesus Christ. It's the same company, Facebook and Instagram, so I don't understand the policies. But people are crazy. But I love those videos, man. I just posted one today where, what is it, man? Oh, it's a self-defense class where the volunteer just keeps beating up the self-defense teacher. And it's a real video. He's like, no, don't do that. It was hilarious. I love shit like that.
Now, I want to talk to you about stand-up. You're back living in New York, and you were in LA for a long time. You started
21 years.
Yeah. So what's the difference for a stand-up comic? And you're a regular in all places in New York. What's the difference?
Most of them, about 80%. Yeah.
So what's the difference between being a stand-up in New York and being a stand-up in LA? I mean, in as well as writing material and working your act, which is more valuable?
Wow. Well, the first thing I noticed about LA is that there's more celebrities. So you're following like 10 celebrities. And you're right. Like, what was good about the Comedy Store is when Adam Egan booked it, he put me right in the middle. And like I would close out the show or open the show up. It was fun. And I was always like, they're there to see celebrity. Who's this guy? You know? In New York, they're just really strong. Like you're following 10, 25-year-olds who are really hungry and energetic. And as I'm sitting there, I'm like, wow, I remember when I had that kind of energy. Like they have so much energy, and I don't have that energy anymore. I fake it for 15 minutes, with pound Red Bulls and go up there and just fake it. But some of these guys, I'm like, wow, they're great. They're really funny, and they're so that's what I've noticed is that in New York they're a little stronger. Like in LA, everybody's more relaxed and they'll sit there and they'll listen to somebody talk. In New York, it's boom, boom, boom. So, and there's also a rant. I like to do jokes, but what I've noticed a new trend in New York is for comics to rant, a lot, and then get the punchline at the end. It's a style, but I respect it.
So, what got you into this business? I know you show clips of you back in college doing plays and on the radio, but when
Yeah,
did you know you wanted to be? I mean, when did this whole start? Were you a kid? Were you a funny kid growing up, or what made you follow? Because you've
yeah,
had a good career. You've worked. You constantly and there's ups and downs. Like that's Hollywood, but you've worked and you've
yeah,
been on TV, which we'll talk about. You've had your own series, but what got you into this
yeah.
business? I mean, what kind of kid were you? Were you funny? Were you a wise ass or what?
Well, my father showed. Thank you, by the way. My father showed me the Marx Brothers and Laurel and Hardy, and then I discovered Tim Conway on Carol Burnett, and my mother showed me the best of John Belushi, and then between all of those, I was like, oh, I want to do this. Like Harpo Marx was the funniest human being to ever live, and I was like, I want to do that. And then as I got older, I discovered Bill Cosby and George Carlin. Like I had Bill Cosby, Why Is There Air, the album, and I saw George Carlin Playing with Your Head on HBO, as well as Bill Cosby himself. They came out like the same 2 year, and I was like, these guys, this is great. So I like stand up from that, and then I just started being funny in school. Like I wasn't allowed to be funny around the house because my mother didn't like it, but in school I was very funny, and so that's kind of what started it, I guess. And I always wanted to do comedic acting. And so I was doing the plays in high school. I did there was a moment. There's a play called Room Service. I think the Marx Brothers did a movie version of it. It was not their typical movie. They broke trend. They broke their own brand. They did a different type of movie. So I was in the play version of that. And there was a scene where we had to eat a whole meal in like 2 minutes. And we're fooling the waiter into thinking he's going to get a part in the play. So they're rehearsing the scene while I'm eating all the food and stuff. And I just improv the whole scene. And I just remember that little kids, high school kids, teachers, grandparents, they were all laughing. And I was like, oh, I can actually do this. That was the moment where I was like, it's not just a dream. I can do this. And so I think from then on, my fate was sealed, for good or bad. So
Well,
that's I guess
what's
that yeah.
funny. Well, it's funny you say about remembering. I had hosted an event a few weeks ago, and this guy showed up. This guy John Feast. He was a big football player in high school, and he
Right.
sat next to me in history. And I used to always make. I was never a class clown, but I used to always make jokes, like under my breath,
Right.
and he would always laugh. And that was my reaction too. It was like, wow, I can actually make people laugh, and it makes them happy. And then like 10 years later, when I was working on the road doing comedy, he came to one of my shows and he's like, I always knew you would do this. But it's funny how we
That's
remember
hilarious.
those times. Like you
Yeah.
remember eating food. But what's funny, you mentioned Tim Conway. I'm going to tell you, man, I remember watching Kyle Burnett. I'm 10 years older than you. So I was older than you when I was watching it.
Right.
But it was Tim Conway was so damn funny. I mean, that guy could make me cry. That's how funny he was.
Yeah. But that's what I always. Oh, hi. So on those shows, where they let me ad lib, like I will really shine. And Carol Burnett let Tim Conway ad lib, and you just need a good boss like that, especially if you can do it. Like Carol Burnett was not threatened and would let him go. Her show had been on for like 8 years already by the time he became a regular. So he just she had all the confidence in the world, and he just came out there and just kept that show going for the 5 years with ad libs. And he was my favorite. I met him in Harrah's Atlantic City. Him and Tom Poston were doing The Odd Couple, and we sat in the front. And in The Odd Couple, when Felix had with us, and Oscar hits it and goes, "Shut up with the pickle," and the pickle went flying into the audience, and I caught it. So we were waiting. I really wanted to meet Tim Conway. He was my idol when I was like 14, maybe less than that. I was like 11 or something. And she goes, they come out of this door. So we waited, and him and Tom Poston came up, and I got a chance to tell him how much he meant to me and how funny he was and how I wanted to do comedy. And couldn't have been nicer, He had his little fisherman's hat on, and I have a picture of it. It was like perfect, Like when you it was one of my favorite moments in my life that I got to meet Tim Conway. Just I love when they for example, when I worked on one of the sitcoms, they wouldn't let me ad lib, and every sitcom and pilot I did up till then, they let me ad lib. But this guy, who was really talented and very nice because he hired me, he felt threatened by you ad libbing. Maybe he had a bad experience with an actor who couldn't ad lib. So, like, I couldn't ad lib on the show on my biggest break, And towards the end of the second season, he let me ad lib. I was like, I just wish he had let me out of my cage, because as a comic, when the ad lib, when the joke's done, how not to fuck up the punchline that's written. Well, I'm just saying that, like, when it comes to comics, like Tim Conway, who had done live performances, when to ad lib. A lot of these TV actors never did live performances, so they don't know when to ad lib. Like Tim Conway knew when to ad lib. I know when to ad lib. You know when to ad lib. We know not to fuck up the punchline, and that's that. So when I'm allowed to ad lib, I think of Tim Conway. I just try not to fuck the joke up and add to the joke or create another moment on top of it. Like Michael Richards is a perfect example. Like it never said he enters and falls over something. He just knew when to do that, what to make a joke funnier by doing that, or do it after the joke, never during the setup. And like that's what Tim Conway. You ever see the elephant story? YouTube. Yeah. Tim Conway. Yes, Tim Conway elephant story. You type that in. It's one of the funniest things ever.
So when do you start actually doing stand-up? In college, you're doing radio. Where did you go to college at?
I went to college upstate New York, and I chose it because it had a radio station that had an FM channel that went out around the neighboring cities, and they also had a TV station that went out around the neighboring cities. So I was like, okay, this is what I want to do. So I'm going to go here, and so I had my own radio show there for 3 years, comedy show. I wrote skits and had friends, and we performed them. We ad lib to callers, panel discussions, and then I had my own comedy article in the newspaper, and then I had my own TV show with my friend, and we were nominated for an NACB, a National Association of College Broadcasters Comedy Award. So then when I graduated, I thought I should get into TV by doing cruise stuff. So I was like, okay, I'll be an intern or be a production assistant. I'll work my way up that way. But that was completely wrong. I was just standing in the rain watching equipment while they were all eating lunch. I'm in a van delivering sodas. And then one day, a guy from my high school did stand-up comedy at a bringer show in stand-up New York in like 1992. And I said to myself, well, that guy is not funny. So I just went and did it because I was like, that was always like dream number 5. You know what I mean? So I just went and did it. And that's what got me my acting agent and acting manager, So I like stand-up, but I love acting,
So when did you did you start, okay, were you booking stuff before you did stand-up, or when you started doing stand-up, did that parlay you to booking things? What was the cycle? Because as I said, we're talking about your sitcom, but what was the cycle?
Well, the my manager saw me perform at the old Gotham Comedy Club on 22nd Street in Manhattan. So he saw me perform, and he picked me up, and he was working for a commercial agency. At the time, he said, stick with me. I'm going to work for a theatrical management place. I said, okay. So did 3 Wendy's commercials after he picked me up. I got into SAG. And then he got me an audition for Sidney Lumet. And I did a TV show directed by Sidney Lumet, which was crazy. I'm working with the Dog Day Afternoon director right out of the gate. And then my manager went to Barry Katz Entertainment, and he was able to get me more auditions. So that's how everything happened. It happened because of stand up, but I didn't really love stand up as much as I loved acting. So like when I went to LA, I don't think I wrote a joke for like 10 years because I was like having fun and making money and dating pretty girls and going to parties, and then I would do like my jokes at Laugh Factory.
What made you move to LA? What was there a defining moment? And what was it like for when was it your first time in LA, or were you out there for pilot season before? What was the move?
I did a pilot. My manager got me an audition for Steve Coren. Steve Coren, you might know his name from Seinfeld. They had a character named Steve Coren. There was a joke based on him. For the other writers are calling him mediocre, making fun of him. But he wrote for Saturday Night Live. He wrote like a lot of Weekend Update jokes for Kevin Nealon. He did Goat Boy, Joe Pesci show, Jim Brewer. He wrote for Adam. He writes Adam Sandler movies, and he wrote for Seinfeld on the Seinfeld show. So he had a pilot with Tiffany Amber Thiessen and Mackenzie Aston, who's Sean Astin's brother, and I got the part, and so I did the pilot. Lived in LA for 2 weeks at a hotel. Did the pilot, and then somebody we didn't get picked up because Emerald, the sitcom Emerald, was awful. But he tested through the roof. But nobody watched it. But he tested through the roof. So then I went back to New York to do stand up, and I got a phone call saying one of the writers on the pilot is a staff writer for another show called Three Sisters on NBC, which not a lot of people were watching. Vicki Lewis from News Radio was on it. Diane Cannon, AJ Langer from My So-Called Life, from New York. I just got thrown on that. They had me on. They called me. I'm not very good at things, but if you write me a scene, I can do it. So the writer wrote me a little scene, and I nailed it. And I got a phone call. We're giving you $5,000 to move. You have to be here in a week. So I just packed up my apartment and I just moved to LA. I lived in a hotel for 3 weeks. It cost me $5,000, that hotel. Michael Jackson was in the room above me. I'll never forget that. And I just lived in LA. I saw him once get out of a limousine, but he had a mask on. Yeah, I was like, what the fuck? It was, it was fun, but it was also strange because suddenly I had to be a different type of character. I had to be very downplayed and real. When I was used to like, hey, I was like, I wanted to be like George Costanza, and I had to downplay it and play a regular guy. But it was great because when I look back on it, it was the best character I ever played because he was the most real. For example, I always give fat jokes every time I'm on a sitcom, even if the part isn't about a fat guy. They'll make it about a fat guy. But on that show, they had me make fun of myself. They never had another character make fun of me. It was a sweet show. And I played like the boyfriend of AJ Langer, who I had a crush on from My So-Called Life. So it was a very surreal experience. And I was like, and so I moved to LA.
So what is that like? You're young, you're making good money, you're in LA. I mean, it's got to be very eye-opening for someone who, as you said, you weren't in the business that long. I mean, you've done some commercials, but you're on. It was where someone saw your talent and liked you, and they said, "We got to use this guy again." I mean, what does that do to an ego? Because I know when I was young, I would have been like a prick. I would have been like, "Oh, look at me."
I was I was very grounded. My family's very grounded, so I was very grounded. And also I was learning sitcom acting. I knew how to do the pilot for Steve Coren. I knew how to do because it was like Seinfeld. It was like the show Seinfeld. It was like Friends. I had to do that. But then I had to learn sitcom acting. Like they give you a long sentence, and you get a laugh at the end. But if you stop it halfway through, you can get 2 laughs. So I started to learn things like that. And, I never had an ego because the show 9/11 happened. We premiered and 9/11 happened. So I remember the first week it came out, I was sitting in the back of a pickup truck in Vegas. And these girls were staring at me in the car behind me. And one of them wrote on a piece of paper and they put it on the windshield. 3 sisters, question mark. So I was like, wow, yeah, look at me. people recognizing me. And then 9/11 happened, and nobody cared anymore. So it was that was humbling to learn sitcom acting off without a lot of people seeing it, you know.
So, so
And
how do
then
you how do you
that's how I got there.
how do you bounce back from that, man? Like, as you said, 9/11. So it was such an awful day, and it changed the
But yeah,
industry.
it's
But
horrible.
I mean, you don't. But the thing for you is like you've made this, and now no one's going to watch it. It changes. I mean, how do you sit there and put game face back on to keep going? Because you know it was a show that your show was popular. People were recognizing you.
Well, well it was also before the internet, so I kind of fans before the internet. Once the internet came out, I was like, I don't want this. People are too mean, you know. But and then I got another pilot for ABC. We reshot it. Then I got a Fox sitcom. So the point I'm trying to make is that I just kept rising. What was really hard to deal with was after the second sitcom I did. There were two pilots and two sitcoms. So the second pilot I did was called Stacked with Pam Anderson and Christopher Lloyd and Elon Gold, and it was written by the guy who wrote Modern Family. So it was a good show, but nobody gave it a chance because it was Pam Anderson, you know. So when the writer's strike happened during that show, and we didn't come back, and then the economy collapse happened, there were like 3 years of very little work, and everyone got shoved down a level. So suddenly, my dream was taken away from me. I was no longer a regular on things. I was a guest role actor. Like everybody got shoved down a level. Like celebrities were now doing TV. Like Kevin Bacon suddenly had the following. You know what I mean? So everyone lost their jobs. And the writer, actually, who recommended me to Three Sisters, actually killed himself because his pilot. He was working on a pilot and he got a sitcom. He finally got his own show, and then they got canceled because of the writer's strike, and he killed himself. He was a great guy. So everyone, what was really hard for me was having my dream come true and then having it taken away from me. And to be honest with you, although I've made peace with it, there are some days where I watch, let's say Everybody Loves Raymond, and I get a little mad because I'm like, I could do that. And I was getting very good at it. And that fucking writer strike and economy collapse came at the wrong time. And it was hard to deal with. I was very hard to be around for about 3 years. I remember my brother and mother came to visit me, and I was yelling. I was upset. Uh, the girlfriend I was with left me because I was always angry. So there was
What year
about
was
3 to 4 years.
this?
I would say 2000, 2009 and 2000 and 2008, 9, 10. Those were three very difficult years. You know,
Now,
because what's that?
I was going to ask you real quick with back to Stack. What was it like working with Christopher Lloyd? Because there's
He was
another
the
guy,
best, man.
Jimmy Gutowski's a
Yeah.
legendary. I saw the episode. What was it? Where he just I would watch Taxi every once in a while. I find it, and you forgot how funny that show was and how good he was at that role. And it's funny because back in the day, so many comics would do the Jimmy Gutowski impression, and you're like,
Yeah. It's original, and the character he did on Stacked was original as well. Dr. Harold March, Professor Harold March. It was an all new character coming from him that most people didn't get a chance to see, and it's a shame. I loved working with him. There was so many moments. I don't know which one to tell you about. Like I could
Tell me a
start.
few. Tell me a few.
Well, for example, there was where we liked making each other laugh. I think me and him we're still in contact. He liked me and I liked him. And a lot of people were afraid to talk to him. And I left him alone for 2 weeks. And then I started talking to him and me out to his girlfriend's birthday. And I brought my girlfriend, and we got along very well. So we liked making each other laugh. And there was one scene where he kept hearing a noise, and it was really his cell phone beeping, and he didn't understand it because he was new to cell phones. But he was like, "Does anybody else hear it beeping?" And some hick raises his hand in the sitcom and goes, "I've been hearing it since the '70s when the aliens put a probe in my anus." And then Christopher Lloyd's line is, "Well, we'll look there last." And so the guy walks away, and Lloyd ad libbed him, put his ear to his ass, and then I started laughing. And he looked at me and he started laughing because we were making each other laugh. That was so much fun, having those moments with him. And one time, after like a year and a half, I sat down with him. I said, I got to tell you, something you did really bothered me. He was like, what? What did I do? I was like, listen, I don't mean to make a big deal of it, but you upset me, and I feel like I have to tell you. He goes, what? What did I do? Tell me what I did. I go, when you killed the cartoon shoe in Who Framed Roger Rabbit, why'd you do that? It was a squeaky little shoe. It wasn't going to hurt anybody. How was it going to fuck up your cable car empire? Why'd you? And he looked at me and he goes, I'm really sorry. It was just cute and funny to have that moment after seeing that movie when I was 14. He was a wonderful guy, and I miss him. I didn't mind being his straight man. When I was in scenes with him, like, it was fun because his character would insult mine and I get worked up. But most of the time I was setting him up for jokes, and I did not mind that at all. You know, I really I liked setting him up, and I liked being realistic to make his jokes hit harder. He was really good. You know, uh, I remember hearing also, he told me stories I always wanted to know. When I was a kid, my father showed me One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. And at the end of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, if you're familiar with the movie, right?
Yeah, yeah.
At the end of the movie, Chief Bromden throws the fountain through the window and escapes and runs. The last shot is Christopher Lloyd going, yeah! And then you see Chief Bromden running in the distance. But it was so dark, you could only see his pajama bottoms. So even as a kid, I was like, why did they shoot it so late? Why we can't see it? We can't see him. So now, cut to what? 20 years later, I'm sitting there with Christopher Lloyd, and we're talking about One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. He goes, the guy who played Chief Bromden was a big drinker, and for the last shot of the movie, they couldn't wake him up. He was too drunk. They couldn't wake him up. So they finally got him up, but the sun was down. They got it. They did it anyway. They go, that's why I was dark. Like, a question I had in my head since I was like 5 was answered. You know what I mean? Like, it was so much fun. And I was reading the book Wired. I'm like, why didn't you let John Belushi when you start going west or going east, why didn't you let John Belushi into the party? He goes, we didn't know who he was. But you can see that it really bothered him that was in the book. He's like, we didn't know who he was. I would have let him in. He was like, really sweet guy. And I miss working with him so much. That was like, I thought my regular role life would keep going, but it didn't because of the strike and all that. But so that's working with him remains 16 years later to be the highlight of my career. Like I loved that man. He was a good man too. Good man.
Well, the thing about your career is, and I know you're hard on yourself, but you've guest starred on a lot of great shows. I mean, you were on Mad Men, which is
Yeah,
Mad Men is it's an iconic show. It was
yeah.
great.
That was fun.
What was that like shooting? I mean, was it? I heard when you ever got a part on that, like you weren't allowed to read the script, or they wouldn't give you the script to the last day, or when you auditioned.
Yeah. What I liked about that was like that I read with Matthew Weiner, and he liked me. I could tell he liked me because he was like, well, try it this way. And I was like, all right. Because usually they just dismiss you when they don't like you. But then when we got there, I realized how strict they were on the script. Like, I have a line where I go, you're a real gentleman. So I went, you're a real gentleman. And the script supervisor walked up to me and she goes, it's Yura, not Yura. So I was like, oh. So I look at Jared Harris. I go, they're sticklers. He goes, oh, you have no idea. So Jared Harris, meanwhile, his character commits suicide, and he knew that, but still was pleasant and professional and happy. He was being written off, but he was still a professional and fun to be around, and I worked with him. Well, what I remember specifically from that is I wanted to ad-lib something, but you can't add any words. So the scene is that I have a wallet full of cash that Jared Harris is returning to me. But he stole the picture of my girlfriend out of the wallet so he could masturbate to it or whatever. And when he gives me back my wallet, he tries to leave it. I go, hey, hang on. And I'm counting the cash. And I threw in on my own the fact that I just stop and look at him. So now he thinks that I think he the picture's gone. He thinks that I see the picture's gone. But then I go, it's all there. Like I'm amazed that he didn't steal the money. But I did it purposely to create a moment on an iconic show where he could be nervous for a second. And the director ran up and she goes, that's great. Do it longer, make him sweat. So when I watched that, I go, wow, my instinct as an actor created this good moment. And that felt good, to be honest. That felt pretty good that I was able to add something to the show as opposed to just act. I was able to add something, So that's what that was like.
Well, it's funny. The first time you were on Cooper Talk, I think it was the first time you were on. I was just started dating my now wife Joanne, and I told her you were on Grey's Anatomy, and you played the meat. Wait, were you in the meat grinder, or was your brother in the meat grinder?
My brother, the brother was, and remember, you ever hear Michael Carbonaro, the magician from True TV? That was him. Yeah. His hands caught in the meat grinder, and I'm like the older brother. And then we take apart the grinder to save us because we don't want them to destroy the grinder. What was funny about that is for 2 days, we're just standing covered in blood looking at horrible stuff. And we all became delirious. Ellen Pompeo, Sarah Ramirez, me, and Michael and another actor. So we were getting delirious. So when the camera wasn't on me, my line is, we need a Phillips head screwdriver, 2 wrenches, and something, and stack. So I just said, I want a pound of salami, 2 AA batteries, and season 3 of Will and Grace on DVD. And Sarah Ramirez was so delirious, she fell on the floor laughing. She goes, you got to say that. I go, no, they're going to fire me. She goes, say it, please. So the camera's on me, so I said it. And she just breaks out laughing. I'm like, oh, shit. But that's what I remember the most was how much fun Ellen Pompeo and Sarah Ramirez were. They were great, And Patrick Dempsey was very nice. They all were great. But that was when you're on a hit show, they're all pretty happy,
Yeah, because you're making the money, and a lot of times the crew's been there forever, so you're not walking on eggshells. You're not worried about getting canceled. So you're sitting there. No. What are some other your favorite shows you worked on? Because you worked on so much. I mean, I just saw you. I remember I sent you a message. I think I'm watching Law and Order SVU.
Yeah.
Just recently, and I'm like, and I look at you. Because I know you, but you never know. It's Hollywood. Is that Scolaro? And I said, that's Scolaro. And so you didn't even know that was on, did you? You didn't know that episode was on yet.
No, I can't remember. It happened fast. Like they have a fast turnaround. When we shot it, it was on TV 2 weeks later. Usually it's like 2 months later. This was 2 weeks. That's how fast they were. What I remember most about that was they didn't I got the part by talking slowly and making a joke at the end. Like, hey, don't forget, I like cheese danishes. Because I hire a kid for a job and I just do that in. So I get the part. And the guy doesn't want me to act at all. Just says, just say it fast. So they hire good actors and make them just say the lines fast. That's what always bothers me about those cop shows. There's never any acting. Maybe there's one moment where there's an acting moment, but usually it's just people standing still saying the dialogue. What blah 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 blah. That's what it was. So I got the part because I acted, but then they didn't want me to act. So they said say it fast. I'll never forget. I read for Grimm. Remember the show Grimm?
Yeah.
And Sean Hayes was one of the producers. So I was reading for one of the leads back when I was still reading for leads. And I walked in the room, and they wanted me to play his partner, but they're going to kill a werewolf. And this is the first episode, so they're just learning this stuff exists. So I figured I would be a little scared. So I played him a little scared. And then they said, can you just say the lines? And I said, to be honest with you, if you hired me, this is the way I would do it. Because I don't want to just say the lines. And so I don't want to cause you any problems in the future. And she was like, can you just say the lines now? I was like, so you just want me to stand still and say the lines? And Sean Hayes goes, that's what America wants. And I said, well, that's not what you did. And that I think might have pissed him off. But he was a very nice guy.
But I'm looking at your IMDb. I mean, it's well. I remember when you were on Sullivan and Sons. I remember
Yeah,
that's when you were on another time on my show, and then
right.
you were on a Million Little Things. A Million Little Things was more of a drama. So how did
Yeah,
that come about?
I like
I mean, because
dramas
you
more.
were
Yeah, I like dramas more now because comedy has to be done a very certain way every time. Like you tell a joke, it has to be done like this, has to be done like that. But drama, there's so many options. What oh, he's a good actor. He said, comedy, the actions on the line, drama, the actions in between the lines. And I always liked that. So when I got A Million Little Things, I got it because I made their dramatic scene funny. So then when they hired me back for the second season, they wrote jokes. And in my head, I was like, oh, I just wish you'd write a regular dramatic scene that'd make it funny. Because now I got to do these jokes a certain way. I always remember Dabney Coleman said, don't write me jokes, just write, and I'll make them funny. And that's what I like. I like that. So, like the next two episodes I did of A Million Little Things, they wrote me jokes. So it wasn't as memorable as the first episode I did, which was straight drama, but I made it funny because I found little moments. Like this. Like I'm like, well, do you want this woman to be, in case you guys die? Do you want this woman to be the caretaker for your kid? And she goes, no. I go, because why? Well, her husband just died. Oh, I get it. So you don't want a single parent household. She goes, no, that's not it. Oh, okay, because she's still grieving. No, that's not it. She slept with my husband. So I look at the husband, and I look at her, and I went, and I just crossed that, and went, and they both started laughing, and that they put that in because I, like as a comic, I'm going to make this funny by crossing it out insanely loud, you know. So it got a big laugh because I'm just like now in this awkward position. So I realized it was a moment to be funny, but they meant it as a dramatic moment. So then that's why they hired me back two more times. It's just during the fucking pandemic, they offered me 4 episodes in the last season, and I couldn't do it because of I would have been away for 3 months, and I had other obligations in America because you couldn't go back and forth during the pandemic. They had a 14-day quarantine rule in Canada, so I lost like probably 50 grand. And that would have really helped out. You know.
now you're doing all this acting, as you said. Night Court. Abbott Elementary. You're on these top shows.
Yeah.
When did you start
What's that?
concentrating back? When did you start concentrating back on your stand up a lot? Because you're on the road a lot now. But you were doing these shows and you've been on Gotham Live, you've had Comedy Central Presents, you've had specials. But when did you really, was
It
it
was when
after 9/11 or when was it?
no, it was after it was 2009, 10, and 11 when the writer's strike and economy collapse happened. I now got shoved down to a guest role level. So you got it like on Stacked, I was making 32 grand a week. Now as a guest role, you're making 4 grand 1 week, just one. And you got to give half of it away to taxes and commission to your manager and agent. So really, you're making like $1,800 for 1 week's worth of work. You can't live on that. So I started to play the road, and it was a fucking rude awakening, man. To having ABC, NBC, Fox executives come up to you and say, "We love you, Brian. Could you try this? Oh, could you come here to this party and say hi to everybody?" And you're like, "Yes, yes, yes." To go to Wichita and have a club owner go, "You owe me 3 minutes. You were 3 minutes short." Well, you didn't have a clock on stage. How was I supposed to know? Like, just to get yelled at and treated like shit by these club owners after you were just treated like royalty a year before was very difficult. And I have this memory of the exact moment I knew my career was over. Even though there's a career still now, but the career I wanted was over. I flew to Kansas City, Missouri, and they picked me up at the airport. And the woman said, "Do you want to meet my squirrel?" I said, "What?" She goes, "I have a squirrel. Do you want to meet it?" What am I going to say? So I was like, "Sure." She opens the cage. A squirrel comes out, runs on top of my head, and sits there. The claws are in my eyes, and I got to pretend I like it. I was like, "Yeah, yeah, this is good." And the whole time I'm thinking, my career's over. I was on TV with Chris Lloyd. Now I have a squirrel in my head. Like it was just and that's why people were like, why are you in a bad mood? Because I fucking was in heaven and it was taken away from me because there's some other people with problems. So it took a while to adjust mentally. But that's when I started going. That's when I started playing the road, and that's when I did Conan and the Comedy Central Presents special, and Gotham Comedy Live, and the Late Late Show, and Comics Unleashed. And I just did that Amazon special that just came out this year, and I did the Dry Bar special last year. So it's like I'm still doing it, but I don't know. Like I have bad luck with stand up. Like when I did Conan, this is a good story. When I did Conan, I thought they were going to show me the stage and show me the microphone, but they never did, and I couldn't figure out why. Then the show started. Conan comes out and he's crying, and Tim Russert, the political commentator, was his friend from Boston. They would eat lunch every day together. His son was Conan's personal assistant. He died of a heart attack 2 floors up, an hour before the show. So now Conan says that to the crowd. They show a clip of Tim. Michael Strahan comes out. The interview just tanks. D.L. Hewley comes out. The interview just tanks. I come out. My first half of my act tanks, and then they come alive and laugh at the end. And I'm like, well, like, what are the chances, that I get on TV and that happens? Then I do the Late Late Show, and my whole act is about murdering people. And what happens? The fucking guy dresses up like the Joker and shoots up the movie theater in Aurora. And so now I'm like, okay, so now that whole act gets cut. So every time I'm on TV as a stand-up, something bad happens. So I did this Amazon special, and I get there, and the crowd isn't microphoned. The warm-up guy doesn't get a laugh. So I have to warm up the crowd during my own taping. It doesn't I have really bad luck with taping my stand-up. I think the one that came up perfectly was Gotham Comedy Live. If they look it up on YouTube, that's the one that came out good. But I like stand-up, but I love acting because there's no bachelorette party on the set of Shameless interrupting you. You know what I mean?
No, that's funny. You're talking about things happening when you're taping. I just hope a big what's it called? A big safe doesn't fall and hit me in the head as we're talking, because that'd be really fucked up. All of a sudden, you're going home, everything happens. I was like, all too much is safe, and then that's great. So tell me about Shameless. Tell me about Shameless, because that's a great show.
William H. Macy was great. At first I did Superior Donuts, and Katie Seagal was on Superior Donuts.
I saw you in that episode. Because Joanne said, "Hey, Scolaro's on."
Yeah, it was. Well, she was great, and David Koechner was great. But she came up to me, and I said, "Hey, I used to watch you when you worked with Bette Midler." She was like, "Wow," that was before Married with Children, because my mother was a Bette Midler fan, and Katie Seagal was the comic relief of the singers, the backup singers. So she goes, "What's your name?" I said, "Brian. I'm probably gonna move to New York." I told her that I have a neurological disease and all that. And so 2 years go by, and I'm doing Shameless, and at the table read, I see next to me it says Katie Seagal. I'm like, oh, that's weird. So she walks in the room, sits down. She goes, "So you didn't move to New York? How's your disease?" I'm like, how the fuck? She remembered everything I told her 2 years ago. How great of a person is that? What a nice person. And then Shameless, they announced her, and everyone gave her a big round of applause. And they go, and Brian Scolaro, they go, "You couldn't mention me before her?" And William H. Macy got up and gave me a standing ovation. He was really nice. I liked William H. Macy a lot. He had a good way of working, and he was funny. And we were talking about the pandemic, and he asked me what I did. I was like, I wrote a book and yada yada. I go, "What'd you do?" And he goes, "Well, I spent time. I did a lot of spent time with, what do you call it? Oh, my family." I thought that was really funny. He was like a really nice guy. I know how to talk to celebrities. Everyone goes up to somebody and says the most famous thing they did. You don't do that. You say you love the work that didn't do well, that they were good in. So I said to him, "I love State and Maine." He goes, "State and Maine? I love State and Maine." When I met J.K. Simmons, I said, "I love doing the Lady Killers." He's like, "The Lady Killers." When I met Matthew Perry, I said, I loved Almost Heroes." He goes, "Oh, I love Almost Heroes." You mentioned something that makes them happy. You brought it up, you know.
Well, yeah,
So
people are like that. People are like that. When
yeah,
I interviewed Duchovny for Cooper Talk, and I brought up Gary Shandling, and
wow,
that just changed his whole
yeah,
thing. Because he was like, he told me how he loved that show so
yeah,
much, and that he used to
Larry
get
Sanders.
videos. He used to get videos of Larry Sanders as they were coming out on the X-Files set. So he finally reached out and goes, "Hey man, just let me come on the show as like a man crush." And they became a great friend. But
Yeah, that was funny.
there were
Yeah,
so many other podcasters asking him, going, "Oh yeah, so do you believe in aliens?"
that's stupid. Yeah,
You ask them like that. But you're right, because they get asked the same bullshit so
same
much.
question every time.
After a
Yeah,
while, they go, I don't, they know what the answer is. And I've listened, I've done that. I remember I asked this one musician a question, and I'm a friend of mine had him as a show, and he asked the same question, and the guy's answer was verbatim, like
yeah,
not like
yeah.
saying, but and so that's what happens. So who else have you been really wowed by meeting? I mean, you got to work with Christopher Lloyd. You worked with
Yeah,
Pamela Anderson, who was the biggest sex symbol at the time.
and
But who
that
is
was
there
fun.
anyone
Yeah,
that's just
yeah. Well,
is there anyone that's just really wowed you?
well, after a while you get kind of used to it. But what wows me is how nice they could be. Like Matthew Perry was very nice, and he had the flu, and he was sitting next to me going, we were in the middle of the scene. He goes, "I think I'm gonna die." He's like, "Who would they get to replace me? John Stamos?" And I go, "Nah." As a guest role, you're not supposed to talk. You know what I mean? So I was like, "Nah." He looks at me like, "No," and I go, "Nah." I was like, "We like John Stamos, but he's not funny." I was like, "You're abnormally funny." I was like, "You're one of the best sitcom actors of all time. You got Kelsey Grammer, Danny DeVito, Shelley Long, Art Carney, and Michael Richards, and you." And then they said, "All right, you guys ready to go?" And he said, "Hang on, this guy's saying nice things." And like he couldn't have been nicer. He was really sweet. I enjoyed working with him a lot. Like, uh, I guess I was happy to be with him. Like he was one somebody I was really happy to work with. I can't. I have to look at my IMDb to remember everybody I've worked with. But oh, Kathy Bates was fun too. I worked with her on my birthday, and I whispered to her, "By the way, today's my birthday." She goes, "Happy birthday!" I was like, "No, no." But I can't think of a better birthday gift than to act with you on my birthday. And like, oh my god, oh, I have something coming out. I don't like to talk about things that are coming out because I feel like if I do, I'll jinx them. But I did two things that are coming out next year, three things that are coming out, but two of them I got to work with Oscar winners, three Oscar winners overall, and I was tremendously humbled and excited and brought my A game. So I wish I could answer your question because but I don't want to jinx it. But
I don't. As I said, I know. You said what happened on TV. You say something, and all of a sudden, a hatchet's going through my head. I don't know where it comes from, but a hatchet
yeah,
my fucking
yeah,
head. Thanks, Brian. Don't say anything because I don't want a hatchet right
yeah,
before Christmas.
you're fine. But
Christmas.
one of them in particular, I got to look in the eyes of an Oscar winner for 4 days and act just with him, just me and him, and it was fun. It was fun, and it was so much fun. It was the best part I've
Now,
had since Stacked, probably. You know.
now let me ask you something about acting, because you're out there, and a lot of things have changed since the pandemic, and you're a guy who has you like to ad lib. You said that's your comedic background.
When they
What
let
is
me.
your take? What is your take on auditions being in the room as to being self-taped? Because most comics and most actors who've been around for a while love the room. They're okay with self-tape. What's your take on that?
I like doing it in my bedroom in pajama bottoms. As long as you do something that makes you stick out. A lot of times they want to know if you're easy to work with. So if you're doing a live Zoom audition, be charming, be funny. If you're doing a self tape, let them see your personality in the slate. So I let them see who I am in the slate. Like I'll go, my name is Brian Scolaro. I'm 5'10". I'm in New York City. I'm wearing pajama bottoms. I haven't gone to the bathroom in 3 days. Let's do this. You know what I mean? I'll just do something that'll make them pay attention. And I'll throw in something always at the end. I always, after the scene's completed, I'll throw in something. So I let them see that I understand the scene. As a, it's I didn't mind driving to auditions, but I like not seeing who I'm up against. That was always annoying. Uh, to get there then you see John Turturro's brother Nick Turturro. I'm like, well, they're gonna give it to him. What the fuck am I doing here? And then they give it to him, and like, yeah, why did they waste my time? Like stuff like that, I don't miss, and I also don't. Driving to an audition in L.A. was fine. Getting on a subway to audition in Manhattan, or sitting at the Midtown Tunnel for an hour and spending $60 on parking to audition, I fucking hate. So I kind of welcome the Zoom back.
So
That's my answer.
So you're acting a lot, and you're doing a lot of stand up on the road. How has your
Yeah.
writing style changed in stand up? Are you still writing the same you did when you started, or have you expanded? Because you write a lot of jokes, but has it changed, or do you find yourself developing, or are you sticking to your bread and butter, which works? Because people say you're a great joke writer, and you have a strong act. So you constantly
What I've
changing
been
it.
what I've been realizing is that people know it. Like you can't get them to come back. If they see your act and they come back a second time to see the same act, they won't come a third time. So I'm trying. Like I have pages of jokes, that I'm working on, and it's very hard to get them in. Like I'm on the road, I'll do 15 new in the middle, but it's like they're gonna hear the old jokes for the first 15 because a lot of guys throw it away and just do all new for 45 minutes. I don't have that luxury as a guy who's not famous, so I have to do well as practice new stuff. So I have like I write, but I don't what's the word I'm looking for? I'm like it was easier to write for me when I was younger because now it's like when you get older, the edgy stuff doesn't work as well on you unless you're famous. So if you're Doug Stanhope or somebody who's edgy, it works because they know you. But when you're older and you mention jerking off, they kind of get ew. I mean, they get a little. They think you're a creep. So I heard Jay Leno say that on a podcast. It's like the older you get, almost the less edgy you can be as a stand-up, and that's something I'm figuring out at the Comedy Cellar. So she's like, I'm going up at 1:30 in the morning at the Comedy Cellar, and it's very hard to get new jokes out when they're all drunk. So it's just like, okay, here's the old standards. Give me the fucking money. Let me get out of here. And then they relapse and I go home. So it's but I'll get like 2 minutes in of new jokes each show at Gotham or comic comic strip or West Side. I'll get some new jokes in. It's but in the old days, I would write a joke and I'd have 7 spots that night, and by the seventh spot, the joke would be perfected. You know, so but I'm 51 now. I'm doing 3 spots a night, and I want to go to bed. I want to go to bed during the last show. You know what I mean?
You said I think
Right?
you would get you would do 7 spots, and by the 7th spot, you would know what.
Yeah, the joke will be perfected. But now, as a 51-year-old man, I just want to do 3 spots and go to bed. You know, it's like it takes longer now. Like I have a lot of new stuff. But I'm trying to figure out like the times are changing so much. They want you to rant and talk about your feelings on stuff, and that's not what I do. I do silly stuff, and I don't like talking for 5 minutes without a joke. I want I want 3 jokes a minute. You know what I mean? I want 3 laughs a minute. That's what I go for. But uh, it's whatever. I'm working at it. I got new stuff. We're trying to, but I want guaranteed laughs. So it takes. I always say a joke is like a block of marble, and then you chip away at it, you chip away at it, chip away at it, chip away at it until it becomes a statue. You know what I mean? So you start off with 5 minutes, and then it eventually becomes 30 seconds.
Right.
There's a lot of that. A lot of that going on currently. You know. So like David Tell, his special was 37 minutes for a reason because his joke writing, his short jokes take forever. You know what I mean? Like it takes him forever to get to 45 minutes of new jokes. Took him like 5 years to get this new special. So I'm kind of like that, I think. Just not as clever.
All right, you're a clever guy. So I got one final question for you. Looking back at your
Sure.
career, and you've been up and down. You said you've had a very successful career. No matter what, it's such an actor's mentality that I know people who had like 3 pilots. They're like, oh, none of them got picked up. I'm like, yeah, but you got a pilot. Like that's so much more than somebody else.
I had a very good 10 years. I had a very, very good 10 years.
So looking back though, what are you most proud about with your career?
I would say half the episodes are stacked. I would say about 8 or 9 of the episodes are stacked. I'm very, very proud of. I'm very proud of Mad Men. I'm proud of my Comedy Central special. This, and like there's something coming out that I'm extremely proud about. Extremely proud of. There's bits and pieces. A lot of the great stuff I did, nobody ever saw. I put them on YouTube. I have like 500 hits. Like the first pilot I did, I was really proud of. The guy let me ad lib the whole time. It's the Steve Corrin show. He let me ad lib the whole time. So it's like that's great. Like if that show had went, if it wasn't for Emerald Lagasse, my life would be in a much better place. But so a lot of things. And there was one episode of Three Sisters where they made me the lead, and the whole episode was me getting to know my girlfriend's mother, Diane Cannon. And she kept going out with me to basketball games and to dinner and the bars. And I was very reluctant, the character was. And then at the end of that episode, Jay Stanrich, who was the director of every Cosby Show episode, directed Mary Tyler Moore. He taught James Burrows how to direct. He did Golden Girls, WKRP. He did Soap. He did everything. He pulled me aside and he goes, you can really do this. He goes, it's not easy to lead an episode. And it's very hard to lead an episode, and you can do this. And even though most people never got to see me do that, I think that's my biggest, the jewel in my crown is that one of the 2 biggest sitcom directors of all time said to me that I could do this. So I think that's probably my proudest moment.
Well, that's awesome. That is a great proud moment. Well, Brian, how can people get in touch with you? So give all your socials.
Instagram is the best way. I'll check the messages that if I don't follow you back, I'll see the new messages. I'll look at them. Facebook, don't follow my comedian profile. It's a waste of time. Like you got to pay to get people to see shit. But it's and then I have a website, brianscolaro.com. You can write to me through there.
So people, check out Brian. Go look at his IMDb. Go see some of his past shows. Look up his Madman. It's great. It's great. And if you want to see him covered in blood with a magician and a meat grinder, go watch Grey's Anatomy. You got to check out Comedy Trainwreck. Jimmy Corhan's doing a great job over there. Great shows. You got Ed McGonigal's got a great show. Julia Scotti. You have Coleman Green. There's just a bunch of great shows. You can go to my website, coopertalk.net, to see my other show. I have over 1,025 episodes on there with
awesome.
over 60 members of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Wow.
Go to YouTube, look up the Coop Tank. That's my business podcast. It's a business talk show with 3 local New Jersey business people every week.
Wow.
We just talk about the pros and cons of business. And check out past episodes of Coop's Comedy Corner on YouTube. And don't forget, at Twitter, I'm at Cooper Talk. And that's about it. You can email me at coopertalk.net. I want to thank you for listening, giving a shout out to Laurel Lanes and Splits Bar and Grill. Check them out these holidays. Go to their happy hour. They're a great place. I'm Steve Cooper. I'll be bringing you some great talent next week. I believe we have Larry Ambrose. So come check us out again next week. And you all have a great night.
Coop's Comedy Corner.